The satellite feeds showed something impossible. Dr. Lissa Thornweave stared at the screens displaying Earth's Amazon basin, her three-fingered hands hovering over the controls. The readings made no sense. Vast sections of the jungle simply went quiet, as if someone had pressed a mute button on the entire ecosystem. She was a Varani, a species that had cataloged life on 400 worlds. Her people understood patterns. They built their entire civilization on observable, repeatable phenomena. What was happening below defied every ecological model she had ever studied. The silent zones appeared randomly, lasting anywhere from 20 minutes to 3 hours. They moved without logic, sometimes covering 50 square kilometers, sometimes just a small clearing. Wildlife scanners showed animals freezing in place, predators abandoning hunts mid-chase, entire food chains pausing as if waiting for something. Bruvik entered the observation room, his stone-like skin clicking against the doorframe. The Stoneheart warrior was twice Lissa's height and built like a fortress. His species had evolved on a high-gravity world where only the strongest survived. He had fought in border conflicts across 6 systems. Very little impressed him anymore. "We need to investigate this," he said, his voice rumbling like distant thunder. "The Council won't approve first contact with Earth until we understand what's causing those zones." Lissa nodded. Earth was scheduled for first contact within the year, but these anomalies had delayed everything. The Galactic Council didn't take chances with new worlds. If something on Earth could silence an entire jungle, they needed to know whether it posed a threat. Yanara 3 Moons floated into the room, her translucent body rippling with bioluminescent patterns. The Trilune biologist was fascinated by Earth's aggressive ecosystem. Most worlds supported life, but Earth seemed designed to kill anything that let its guard down for a moment. Poisonous plants grew next to fruit-bearing trees. Predators hunted in packs. Even the insects could kill. "I've analyzed 3 months of data," Yanara said, her voice melodic. "The silent zones don't follow weather patterns, animal migrations, or geological activity. Whatever causes them isn't natural. Or it's so natural we don't recognize it yet," Lissa suggested. She pulled up a map showing the zones over the past week. They appeared scattered across the Amazon, but when she overlaid them chronologically, a faint pattern emerged. The zones seemed to radiate from a central point, though that point kept moving. "Something is traveling through the jungle," Bruvik observed, "creating these zones as it moves. Or something is being followed," Yanara countered. "Perhaps predators are reacting to a threat we can't detect." Lissa made her decision. "We land tomorrow. Small team. Minimal equipment. If there's something down there creating these zones, we need to see it firsthand." The next day, their shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere. The planet was beautiful in a terrifying way. Blue oceans covered most of the surface, and green jungles spread across the continents like living carpets. From orbit, it looked peaceful. The closer they got, the more Lissa understood why Council xenobiologists called Earth a death world. They landed in a clearing near the last recorded silence zone. The jungle closed around them immediately, a wall of green that seemed to pulse with hidden threats. Bruvik activated his armor's defensive shields. Yanara's scanning equipment hummed to life. Lissa checked her recorder, making sure every sensor was functioning. The noise hit them first. Birds screeched. Insects buzzed in clouds. Monkeys howled in the canopy above. Water dripped from enormous leaves. The jungle was alive with sound, a constant symphony of life competing for space and resources. "Temperature is 32 degrees, Yanara reported. "Humidity at 95%. Atmospheric oxygen is higher than standard. Everything here will be faster, more aggressive." They moved carefully into the jungle, following Lissa's scanner toward the area where silent zones appeared most frequently. Bruvik took point, his enhanced senses alert for threats. Yanara drifted behind, collecting samples from plants that would poison most species in the galaxy. Hours passed. The jungle never quieted. Animals watched them from the shadows. Lissa identified 3 different species of venomous snakes within the first kilometer. Bruvik scared off a jaguar by simply standing still and letting the predator realize he was too large to kill easily. Yanara discovered a frog whose skin toxin could paralyze a Stoneheart warrior in seconds. "This planet shouldn't support sapient life," Bruvik muttered. "Humans must be incredibly resilient to evolve here." Then, without warning, the jungle went silent. It didn't fade gradually. One moment the air was full of noise, the next absolute quiet. Birds stopped mid-song, Insects ceased their buzzing. Even the wind seemed to pause. Lissa felt her hearts accelerate. This was it. This was the phenomenon they had come to investigate. Readings? She whispered. All wildlife within 200 meters has stopped moving, Yanara reported quietly. No signs of predators. No environmental changes. They're just waiting. For what? Bravik had his weapon ready, scanning the trees. Lissa checked her equipment. Life signs were still present. The animals hadn't fled. They had simply frozen in place like a recording someone had paused. Her scanner showed a small heat signature, approaching from the west. Bipedal, moving with confidence, through terrain that should slow any creature down. Something's coming, she warned. The heat signature grew closer. Lissa expected a large predator, something terrifying enough to frighten the entire jungle into submission. What emerged from the undergrowth was far stranger. A human child no older than 7 or 8 by Earth standards stepped into their camp's perimeter. She wore scraps of cloth that might have once been proper clothing. Her skin was deeply tanned and marked with scars. Her hair was wild, tangled with leaves and dirt. Her feet were bare and calloused. She carried no weapons, no tools. But she wasn't alone. Walking beside her, matching her pace perfectly, was one of Earth's most notorious creatures. Lissa recognized it from the xenobiology database. A honey badger, small compared to the jungle's larger predators, but famous across the galaxy for absolute fearlessness. Videos of honey badgers fighting lions and surviving snake bites had circulated through council biology departments for years. The child and the animal stopped 10 meters away. Neither showed fear. Neither fled. The child's eyes met Lissa's, intelligent and curious. The honey badger sat on its haunches, watching them with an expression that seemed almost amused. Around them, the jungle remained perfectly, impossibly silent. Bravik lowered his weapon slowly. What is this? Lissa had no answer. A human child shouldn't be alone in this jungle. She should be terrified of alien visitors. Instead, she stood there like she owned the forest, accompanied by a creature too stubborn to know fear. The child tilted her head, studying them. Then she made a soft clicking sound with her tongue. The honey badger stood, shook itself, and padded forward. The jungle was still holding its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. The honey badger approached without hesitation. Bravik's tactical training screamed warnings. Earth animals were supposed to fear the unknown, to avoid potential threats. This creature walked toward 3 aliens like it was strolling through its own territory, because Lissa realized it probably was. The child followed a few steps behind, her movements fluid and natural. She didn't walk like someone lost in the jungle. She moved like the jungle was her home. Every step was placed with certainty. She avoided thorny plants without looking at them. Her bare feet missed a line of venomous ants by centimeters. She knew this place the way Lissa knew her laboratory. Yanara's bioluminescent patterns shifted to calming blues and greens. The Trilune were empathic, able to sense emotional states in most species. She's not afraid, Yanara said softly. Neither of them are. They're curious. The honey badger stopped at Bravik's feet and looked up at the massive warrior. It made a huffing sound that might have been assessment or dismissal. Then it lost interest and wandered over to investigate Yanara's equipment, sniffing at the scanning devices. The child watched this interaction, her expression unreadable. Then she spoke, not in words but in a series of clicks, chirps, and soft vocalizations that sounded more like bird calls than human language. She gestured at the 3 aliens, then at herself, then at the jungle around them. She's trying to communicate, Lissa said, but not in any human language I know. The child tried again, this time using different sounds. When that didn't work, she sat down cross-legged on the jungle floor and began drawing in the dirt with her finger. Simple pictures. Stick figures. 1 small, 1 medium-sized, and 4-legged, both together. Then 3 larger figures clearly meant to represent the aliens. She understands we're intelligent, Bravik said. She's adapting her communication method. The child pointed at herself, then at the honey badger. She made a gesture that seemed to indicate partnership or friendship. Then she pointed at them and made a questioning gesture, hands spread wide. Lissa knelt down slowly, bringing herself closer to the child's level. She pointed at herself. Lissa. She repeated it several times, then pointed at the child with a questioning expression. The child's face brightened with understanding. She pointed at herself and made a sound that was close to Lili. The alien's translators couldn't quite process it. After a moment, Lissa decided to call her Lily. Close enough. Lily pointed at the honey badger. She made a clicking sound, sharp and precise. The animal looked up immediately, attentive. She repeated the click, softer this time, and the honey badger returned to her side. They're not just companions, Yanara observed. They're partners. Look at how they communicate. Over the next hour, Lily demonstrated just how deep that partnership went. She led them through a section of jungle that Lissa's scanner marked as extremely dangerous. Poisonous plants grew thick. Spider webs stretched between trees, each spider large enough to cover Lissa's hand. But Lily moved through it all with the honey badger at her side, and nothing attacked. Bravik noticed it first. The predators are avoiding her. Not us, her, it was true. Lissa spotted a large snake coiled on a branch. As they passed beneath it, the snake watched Lily, then deliberately looked away. A jaguar observed them from behind a fallen log. Its eyes tracked Lily, and something passed between them. Recognition. The jaguar melted back into the undergrowth without approaching. This shouldn't be possible, Lissa whispered. She's prey-sized, young, vulnerable. Every way predator here should see her as an easy meal. But they didn't. Lily walked through one of Earth's deadliest environments, like she had an agreement with every creature in it, and perhaps she did. They reached a small stream. Lily knelt beside it and drank directly from the water. The honey badger did the same. Yanara quickly scanned the water and gasped. That water contains 3 different parasites and bacterial concentrations that would hospitalize most species. How is she drinking it? Lily finished drinking and looked at them with something that might have been amusement. She understood they were confused. She pointed at herself, at the honey badger, then at the jungle around them. She made a sweeping gesture that encompassed everything. Then she pointed at them and shook her head. She's telling us this isn't our place, Bravik translated. She belongs here. We don't. Lily nodded enthusiastically, pleased they understood. Then she stood and gestured for them to follow. She wanted to show them something. They walked for another kilometer. The silence remained absolute. No bird sang. No insect buzzed. The entire jungle was aware of Lily's presence and responded accordingly. Lissa recorded everything, knowing the council would never believe this without documentation. Finally, they reached a clearing. In its center stood the ruins of human structures. Prefabricated buildings now overgrown with vines, solar panels cracked and weathered, equipment lockers, their doors hanging open. This had been a research station once. Lily led them to the largest building. Inside, emergency lighting still flickered weakly. Computer terminals sat dark and dead. But papers remained, scattered across desks, reports, research notes, ethical review forms. Lissa began reading while Bravik kept watch and Yanara examined the facility. The story emerged quickly and it made Lissa's blood run cold. This had been an illegal Earth government project, unauthorized, hidden from international oversight. They were studying human adaptation to extreme environments. The researchers had brought children here, some as young as 3 years old, and left them with minimal supplies to see how they would adapt. This is monstrous, Yanara breathed, reading over Lissa's shoulder. They abandoned children in this jungle. Lily watched them read, her expression patient. She had brought them here deliberately. She wanted them to understand. Lissa found a personnel roster, 8 children initially. She found death reports for 6 of them within the first year. Dehydration, poisoning, predator attacks. The researchers had documented each death clinically, without emotion. Only 2 names had no death reports. One was marked escaped into jungle, presumed deceased. That name was Lily. The other file made Lissa pause. It wasn't for a child. It was an animal behavioral study. The researchers had been studying Earth's fearless megafauna, specifically honey badgers. One subject was marked as escaped containment day 47. Lily had been 3 years old when they abandoned this place. The honey badger had escaped its cage around the same time. Somehow, in the chaos and danger, a terrified human child and a fearless animal had found each other, and together, they had survived. Lily made her clicking sound. The honey badger approached and sat beside her. She rested one small hand on its scarred head. The animal leaned into her touch. 4 years, Lissa thought. She had been alone in this jungle for 4 years. At an age when human children needed protection, education, and care, Lily had learned to survive in one of Earth's most dangerous environments. And she hadn't done it by becoming a predator. She had done it by becoming something else entirely. Bravik's voice was quiet when he spoke. The silent zones. They follow her. The jungle respects her. Lily smiled slightly as if confirming his guess. Then her expression changed. She became alert, focused. The honey badger stood, its body tense. Lily made a sharp gesture, urgent and clear. Danger. From the jungle beyond the clearing came sounds that broke the silence. Human voices, mechanical equipment. The heavy footsteps of people who didn't belong here. Someone else was coming, and Lily's reaction told them everything they needed to know. Whoever was approaching, they were a threat. The voices grew louder. 5 humans emerged from the jungle, dressed in tactical gear and carrying weapons. They wore body armor marked with a corporate logo Lissa didn't recognize. These weren't researchers. They were hunters. The lead hunter stopped when he saw the alien visitors. His eyes widened, his weapon lowering slightly in shock. For a moment, nobody moved. First contact protocols demanded that Lissa identify herself, explain their presence, and follow established diplomatic procedures. But the situation had already spiraled beyond protocol. One of the hunters spotted Lily and raised his weapon. There's one. A feral kid. Perfect specimen. The word made Lissa's skin crawl. Bravik stepped forward, his massive form blocking their line of sight to Lily. Lower your weapons, he commanded, his voice carrying the weight of authority from a dozen military campaigns. This area is under Galactic Council observation. The hunters exchanged glances. Their leader, a scarred man with cold eyes, laughed. The Council here? Earth hasn't even been contacted yet officially. You've got no jurisdiction. We have jurisdiction over endangered sapients, Lissa said, standing beside Bravik. That child is under our protection. That child is worth 2 million credits to the right collectors, the hunter replied. Feral human, raised in the Amazon, completely unsocialized. There are wealthy people across 3 continents who would pay anything for something that unique. Lily moved before any of the aliens could react. She made a series of rapid clicks and whistles, sounds that carried through the jungle despite the silence. Then she ran, not away from the hunters but sideways along the clearing's edge. The honey badger followed, keeping pace. The hunters immediately gave chase. 2 split off to cut her off while the others pursued directly. They moved with professional precision, spreading out to box her in. They had done this before, but they had never hunted anyone like Lily. She led them on a winding path through the densest part of the jungle, places where the undergrowth grew thick and tangled. The hunters crashed through it, making noise, breaking branches. Lily and the honey badger moved like shadows, barely disturbing the plants. Lissa and her team followed at a distance, trying to keep everyone in sight. Yanara's scanners tracked life signs throughout the area. Bravik's combat systems were active, ready to intervene if necessary. Then the jungle responded. It started with insects, thousands of them swarming from seemingly nowhere. They focused on the hunters, biting and stinging. The hunters swatted and cursed, their chase slowing. One hunter stumbled, his hand touching a plant that Lissa's database identified as highly toxic. He cried out, his skin blistering where he made contact. A snake dropped from a branch directly in another hunter's path, not attacking, just appearing. The hunter fired his weapon in panic, the shot going wild. More snakes appeared, blocking their routes, forcing them to change direction. Lily had led them into a trap, but not one she had set. The jungle itself was defending her. This is impossible, Yanara whispered. Animal behavior doesn't work like this. They're cooperating across species, coordinating. She's coordinating them, Bravik said. Watch her, he was right. Every time Lily made a sound, a different part of the jungle responded. A whistle brought birds diving at the hunters' heads. A clicking pattern sent a family of monkeys throwing fruits and branches. She was speaking to the jungle in its own language, and it was listening. The hunters regrouped, their leader shouting orders. They had tranquilizer darts loaded now, prepared for wildlife interference. One took aim at Lily. The honey badger charged. It was small compared to the hunter, but size meant nothing to a honey badger. It moved with absolute conviction, no hesitation, no fear. The hunter screamed as the animal latched onto his leg, its powerful jaws and claws finding gaps in his armor. He fell, trying to shake it off, but honey badgers didn't let go once they committed. Another hunter aimed at the animal. Lily threw herself between them, her small body protecting her partner. She made a sound Lissa had never heard before, high-pitched and commanding. The jungle seemed to hold its breath. Then the jaguars arrived, 3 of them moving like liquid shadows. They positioned themselves around the clearing, cutting off escape routes. They didn't attack. They didn't need to. Their presence alone made the hunters freeze. These were apex predators, creatures that could kill a human in seconds. But they weren't looking at the hunters with hunger. They were looking at them with something else. Judgment. As if the jungle itself was deciding whether these intruders deserved mercy. Lily stood in the center of it all, one hand resting on the honey badger, which had finally released the wounded hunter. Her other hand was raised, palm out, in a gesture that clearly meant stop. The jaguars remained still. The snakes held their positions. Even the insects seemed to wait. The hunter leader's voice shook when he spoke. "What is she?" "She's someone who belongs here," Lissa said, stepping forward carefully. "Someone who has earned the jungle's respect. You haven't." Bravik moved to stand beside the hunters, his weapon drawn but pointed at the ground. "You have 2 choices. Leave now, or face council charges for attempted kidnapping of a protected sapient." "Protected? By what authority?" "By my authority," Bravik said simply. "I am witnessing your actions. I am recording them. The moment you raised weapons against that child, you committed an act of violence that the council will not ignore." The hunters looked at each other, then at the jaguars still watching them, then at Lily standing fearless among predators. Their leader made a decision. "Fall back. This contract isn't worth dying for." They retreated slowly, keeping their weapons ready, expecting an attack. But Lily made a soft sound, a release rather than a command. The jaguars watched the hunters go but didn't pursue. The snakes slithered back into the undergrowth. The insects dispersed. Within minutes, the jungle began to return to its normal state, except it wasn't normal. The silence remained, and it would remain as long as Lily was present. The hunters disappeared into the jungle. Lissa heard their vehicles starting in the distance, the sound of retreat. She would report them to council authorities. There would be consequences, but right now she was more interested in Lily. The child approached the team slowly. The honey badger walked beside her, limping slightly from the fight but refusing to show weakness. Lily knelt down and examined her partner's injuries with gentle hands. The animal sat patiently while she checked each cut and bruise. "She protected us," Yanara said. "Did you see? When the jaguars arrived, they positioned themselves to keep us safe too. She included us in her protection." Lily stood and faced them. She pointed at the hunter's departure route, then made a braking gesture with her hands. "Enemies." Then she pointed at the 3 aliens and placed her hand over her heart. "Friends. We need to understand this," Lissa said. "How did you survive here? How did you learn to communicate with them?" Lily considered for a moment, then gestured for them to follow. She led them deeper into the jungle, to places the hunters would never find. The honey badger ranged ahead, checking for threats, reporting back with soft growls and huffs that Lily understood perfectly. As they walked, Lissa realized something profound. The question wasn't how Lily had survived the jungle. The question was how the jungle had adapted to include her. Somewhere in the 4 years since her abandonment, she had become part of the ecosystem, not as a predator, not as prey, as something new. A bridge between human intelligence and animal instinct. A translator for 2 worlds that had never spoken before. And if one human child could do this in 4 years, what could humanity accomplish given time? The silent zones suddenly made perfect sense. They weren't zones of fear or suppression. They were zones of respect. Areas where the constant struggle for survival paused because everyone recognized that Lily had earned safe passage. She had created peace in one of Earth's most violent places. The council needed to see this. They needed to understand what humans could become, given the right circumstances. Not conquerors or destroyers, but mediators, bridge builders, partners in a hostile universe. Lily led them to a cave hidden behind a waterfall. Inside, she had created a home. Simple but carefully arranged. Sleeping areas lined with leaves, stored food in natural containers, tools made from stone and bone, and drawings on the walls, pictures of animals and plants, each marked with different symbols. She had been teaching herself, creating a written language to record what she learned. At 7 years old, abandoned and alone, she had built not just survival skills but knowledge systems. Bravik's voice was soft with respect. "She's remarkable. She's human," Lissa replied. And that simple statement suddenly carried enormous weight. Night fell over the jungle, but darkness brought no silence. The nocturnal creatures began their hunting, and the sounds shifted from bird calls to insect chirps and the rustle of predators moving through the canopy. Lily sat near the cave entrance, the honey badger curled against her side, both watching the alien visitors with patient curiosity. Lissa studied the drawings on the cave walls using a soft light that wouldn't disturb the jungle beyond. Each picture told a story. Lily and the honey badger meeting for the first time, two scared creatures finding each other in chaos. Lily learning which plants were safe to eat. The honey badger teaching her how to dig for roots and insects. Pictures of close calls with predators. Pictures of the first time an animal chose not to attack. "This is a journal," Inara said, her bioluminescence providing additional light. She's documenting her learning process. One series of pictures showed Lily's evolution of communication. Early images showed her trying to make sounds, failing, trying again. Later images showed animals responding to her calls. The progression was clear. She had spent years learning the jungle's languages, testing sounds until she found ones that worked. Bravik examined the tools Lily had created. Sharp stones for cutting, wooden spears that were never used for hunting, only for digging, containers woven from plant fibers. She's tool-using, but not in a destructive way. Every tool serves cooperation with the environment, not domination of it. Lily watched them study her home. She made a soft sound and the honey badger uncurled, stretching. She stood and approached Lissa, holding out her hand. In her palm was a small carved figure made from wood. It depicted a four-legged creature carefully detailed despite the crude tools available. "It's the honey badger," Lissa said. "She's giving me a gift." Lily nodded, then made another figure appear from a pouch at her waist. This one showed a jaguar, then another showing a monkey. She had carved representations of every major animal in her territory. She laid them out carefully, arranging them in patterns that showed relationships, predator and prey positioned near each other but not touching. Partners placed side by side. "She's showing us the social structure," Yanara breathed. "She doesn't see the jungle as chaos. She sees it as a community with rules and relationships." Lily confirmed this by rearranging the figures. She placed the honey badger carving in the center, then placed her hand beside it. Around them, she positioned all the other animals, each at varying distances, some closer, some farther away. A map of alliances and understandings. Then she picked up 3 small stones and added them to the arrangement. The aliens. She positioned them between the inner circle and outer circle, not fully trusted yet but not rejected either. Probationary members of the community. "We're being evaluated," Bravik said. "She's deciding if we can be trusted." Lily picked up the honey badger carving and moved it around the arrangement, showing how it could access every part of the territory without threat. Then she picked up one of the stones representing the aliens and tried to move it the same way, but several animal figures blocked the path. The message was clear. The honey badger had universal access because it had earned universal respect. The aliens had not. Lissa felt humbled. They had come to Earth as representatives of an advanced galactic civilization, expecting to evaluate humanity. Instead, a 7-year-old child was evaluating them, using social systems they were only beginning to understand. Lily gathered up the carvings and returned them to her pouch, except for the honey badger figure. That one she gave to Lissa, pressing it into her hands and closing Lissa's fingers around it. A gift, a symbol, perhaps a promise of potential friendship, if they proved worthy. "Thank you," Lissa said, knowing Lily might not understand the words but would understand the tone. Lily smiled slightly, then stood and moved to the cave entrance. She made a complex series of clicks and whistles. Within moments, responses came from the jungle. Different animals, different voices, all replying to her call. "She's checking the perimeter," Bravik said, making sure everything is secure for the night. Satisfied with the responses, Lily returned to the honey badger. The animal had already claimed a sleeping spot, a natural depression lined with soft moss. Lily curled up beside it and the honey badger shifted to accommodate her, its body warm against the cool night air. They had clearly slept this way for years, each providing comfort and security for the other. Yanara settled into a meditation pose, her bioluminescence dimming to a soft glow. Bravik took the first watch, his enhanced senses alert for any threat. Lissa continued examining Lily's cave, finding more evidence of her adaptation. She discovered a collection of plants arranged by category. Medicinal herbs, nutritious roots, poisonous species marked with a specific symbol, clearly labeled as dangerous. Lily had created a botanical catalog without any formal education. She had learned through observation, experimentation, and probably several close calls with death. Near the plants, Lissa found something that made her pause. A small shelter made from leaves, carefully constructed. Inside it were 3 carved figures different from the animal carvings. These were human shapes, children. Each one was positioned lying down, covered with leaves, clearly meant to represent burial. The other children who hadn't survived. Lily had found them or found evidence of them. She had been too young to understand death when she was first abandoned, but she had learned, and she had honored the memory of others like her who hadn't been as fortunate, who hadn't found a honey badger to partner with, who hadn't learned the jungle's languages fast enough. Lissa felt rage building in her chest. The researchers who created this project, who abandoned children to die in the name of science, deserved to face justice. She would make sure they did. A soft sound made her turn. Lily was awake, watching her. The child had seen Lissa discover the memorial. For a moment, they simply looked at each other across the cave. Then Lily pointed at the 3 figures, at herself, and made a gesture that clearly meant they were the same. All children, all abandoned, but she had survived. Lily stood and walked to the memorial. She rearranged the leaf covering slightly, a ritual of remembrance. Then she returned to the honey badger and settled back down. But before she closed her eyes, she made one more gesture. She pointed at the 3 buried figures, then at Lissa, then made a sound that conveyed both question and plea. She wanted justice for them. She was asking if the aliens could provide it. Yes, Lissa said quietly. I promise you there will be justice. Lily seemed to understand. She closed her eyes, her hand resting on the honey badger's scarred head. Within moments, both were asleep, the absolute trust between them evident in how vulnerable they allowed themselves to be in each other's presence. The night passed slowly. Bravik's watch was uneventful, though he reported several predators approaching the cave before turning away. The silent zone extended even into darkness, apparently. When dawn began to lighten the sky, Lily woke instantly, alert and ready. The honey badger yawned, showing impressive teeth, then followed her to the cave entrance. Morning in the jungle was a spectacle. Birds began their calls. Monkeys howled greetings to the day. Insects hummed back to life. But as soon as Lily stepped outside, the volume lowered. Not silent, but muted. Respectful. She led them back toward the abandoned research station. Along the way, she stopped several times to interact with animals. A family of monkeys descended from the canopy, and Lily exchanged sounds with them. Information, Lissa realized. The monkeys were reporting on activity in their territory, and Lily was acknowledging their report. A colorful bird landed on Lily's extended arm. It chirped a complex pattern, and Lily responded with similar sounds. The bird flew off, heading in a specific direction. Lily watched it go, then adjusted their route slightly. She's gathering intelligence, Bravik said with admiration, using the animals as scouts and informants. They reached the research station by mid-morning. Lily walked directly to one of the buildings they hadn't explored yet. Inside, she found what she was looking for. An old communication terminal, still connected to solar panels that provided minimal power. Lily gestured at it, then at Lissa. She wanted the aliens to use it. Lissa activated the terminal. It flickered to life, showing a basic interface. With some work, she was able to access archived files, personnel records, financial transactions, communications with the project's secret backers. The evidence she found was damning. Names, dates, amounts of money exchanged. The project hadn't just been unethical. It had been criminal from the start. And the people responsible were still out there, probably funding other illegal research. This goes to the council, Lissa said. All of it. Lily watched the screen, not understanding the words, but understanding the gravity. She had kept this place preserved, somehow knowing that someday someone would come who could use this evidence. She had been waiting for justice for 4 years, and now, finally, it was within reach. The communication terminal chimed, indicating an incoming transmission. Lissa had sent her preliminary report to the Council ship in orbit, and they were responding far faster than she expected. The screen filled with the image of Counselor Wrath, a senior diplomat from the Varani homeworld. His 3 eyes narrowed as he reviewed the data. Dr. Thornweave, these are serious accusations. You're claiming that Earth government officials knowingly abandoned children in a lethal environment as part of unauthorized research. The evidence is all here, Lissa replied. Financial records, personnel files, research logs. They documented everything. And this child you found, she's been surviving alone for 4 standard years? Not alone, with a partner. Lissa adjusted the camera to show Lily and the honey badger, who stood beside her looking unimpressed by the alien technology. Counselor Wrath leaned forward, studying them. Remarkable, but Dr. Thornweave, we have a problem. The hunters you reported have filed a complaint. They claim you interfered with legal salvage operations on a non-contacted world. Legal salvage? They were trying to kidnap a child. They have permits from a regional Earth authority to recover abandoned research materials. Technically, according to their documentation, biological subjects from the abandoned station fall under that category. Lissa felt sick. They're trying to classify her as property, which brings us to a difficult question. Is this child still legally human? She cannot speak any known human language. She has no socialization. She lives as an animal lives. Some council members are arguing that she represents a separate evolutionary branch, essentially a new species. And if that's true, she might fall outside Earth's protection laws. Lily watched the conversation, not understanding the words but clearly reading the tension. The honey badger growled softly, sensing her distress. That's absurd, Bravik interjected. She's human. She's just adapted to extreme circumstances. Adaptation or evolution, the legal distinction matters. Counselor Wrath's expression was troubled. Dr. Thornweave, I need you to understand the political situation. Earth is on the verge of first contact. Multiple council factions are debating whether humans are ready. Some see humans as too violent, too territorial. Others see potential. This situation with the child could influence the entire decision. How? Lissa asked. If she's proof that humans can become feral, dangerous, unpredictable, it supports the argument for delaying contact. But if she demonstrates something else, something valuable, it could tip the scales in humanity's favor. Yanara spoke up, her voice carrying through the translator. She demonstrates humanity's most valuable trait, the ability to build bridges across impossible divides. She's created peace in one of Earth's most violent ecosystems. Peace built on what foundation? Fear? Dominance? Respect, Lissa said firmly. Come down here and see for yourself. 6 hours later, Counselor Wrath arrived with a full diplomatic team. They landed in the clearing near the research station, their shuttle gleaming in the afternoon sun. Lily watched from the jungle's edge, the honey badger tense beside her. She made a soft sound and responses came from the surrounding trees. Her network was active, aware, ready. Counselor Wrath stepped out of the shuttle, accompanied by 4 other council members representing different species and political factions. They wore formal diplomatic attire, completely inappropriate for the jungle environment. They looked around nervously, clearly aware they were in hostile territory. Where is the child? Wrath asked. Lily stepped into view. She wore the same tattered clothing, her hair still wild, her feet still bare. The honey badger walked beside her, and they moved as one unit. Behind them, barely visible in the shadows, other animals watched. Jaguars, monkeys, birds perched in branches. The entire jungle was observing this meeting. One council member, a triloon like Yanara, gasped. The silence zone. We're in it right now. It was true. The jungle's normal cacophony had muted to a respectful quiet. Animals were present but still, waiting. She controls them, another council member said, fear in their voice. She doesn't control anything, Lissa corrected. She communicates. There's a difference. Lily approached the council members slowly. The honey badger stayed close, protective but not aggressive. She stopped a few meters away and studied each alien carefully. Then she did something unexpected. She knelt down and began drawing in the dirt. She drew the earth a circle. Then she drew stick figures representing humans scattered across the circle. Then she drew different creatures, animals of various types, also scattered across the earth. She spent time on this, making sure each figure was distinct and recognizable. Then she drew a line connecting one human figure to one animal figure, the honey badger, obviously. She looked up at the council members to ensure they understood. Next, she drew more lines, connections between humans and other animals, dogs, cats, horses, birds. She populated her drawing with partnerships, each one different but all based on the same principle, cooperation. She's telling us about domestication, Counselor Rath said, but that's not the same as what she's doing. Lily shook her head, understanding his tone if not his words. She pointed at the domestication drawings and made a gesture indicating they were old, established. Then she pointed at herself and the honey badger and made a different gesture. New, different, more complex. She drew another set of figures. Herself, clearly marked as different from the other humans, and the honey badger, clearly marked as different from other animals. Then she drew them together, connected by multiple lines instead of just one. Partnership, equality, mutual respect. Around this central partnership, she drew other animals in concentric circles, some close, some farther away, each positioned based on their level of trust and cooperation. It was a social map, a diagram of relationships that transcended species barriers. "This is unprecedented," Yanara whispered. "She's not describing dominance or submission. She's describing community." Lily wasn't finished. She drew new figures. The aliens. She positioned them outside all the circles, separate. Then she drew an arrow, showing them potentially moving inward, joining the community. But the arrow was dotted, uncertain, conditional. "She's offering us membership," Bravik said, "but we have to prove ourselves worthy." Counselor Rath knelt down to Lily's level, his formal robes dragging in the dirt. "What do you want from us, child?" Lily couldn't answer in words, but her actions spoke clearly. She stood and walked to the research station. She led the entire council delegation through the abandoned buildings, showing them everything. The cages where children were kept. The observation rooms where researchers watched them struggle. The cold clinical equipment used to measure their suffering. She showed them the memorial she had built for the children who died. 3 small graves marked with stones and decorated with flowers that she must replace regularly. She knelt beside them and placed her hand on each grave in turn, a ritual of remembrance. Then she stood and looked directly at Counselor Rath. She pointed at the graves, at the station, at the evidence of cruelty, and she made a gesture that needed no translation, a fist striking down. "Justice. She wants us to punish those responsible," Rath said softly. Lily nodded vigorously. Then she made another gesture more complex. She pointed at herself, at the honey badger, at the jungle around them. Then she spread her arms wide, encompassing everything. Home. This was her home, earned through survival and understanding. She pointed at the council members, then back at the shuttle. She made a pushing motion. Leave. But not permanently. She drew another line in the dirt, this one solid instead of dotted. She was willing to trust them, to include them in her community if they proved themselves through action. "She's negotiating," Bravik said with admiration, "setting terms for cooperation." One of the council members, a Stoneheart elder, stepped forward. "Child, if we bring justice for those who hurt you and the others, what will you give us in return?" Lily considered this carefully. Then she made her clicking sound. The honey badger approached. She made another sound, different but clearly a call. From the jungle, a jaguar emerged, followed by a family of monkeys, several birds, and other creatures. They arranged themselves around Lily, not threatening the aliens but demonstrating their presence. Lily gestured at this assembly, at the partnerships and alliances she had built. Then she pointed at the council members and made a teaching gesture, hands moving as if shaping something. "She's offering to teach us," Lissa breathed. "To show us how she does this." Yinara's bioluminescence flashed with excitement. "Do you understand what this means? Humans have the ability to communicate across species barriers, to build alliances with non-sapient life. That's a skill no other council species possesses." Counselor Rath stood slowly, his expression thoughtful. "If what we're seeing is representative of human potential, then Earth doesn't just qualify for council membership. Earth brings something unique to the galactic community." He looked at Lily with new respect. "We accept your terms, child. Justice for the past, partnership for the future, Lily smiled, the first genuine smile Lissa had seen from her. The honey badger made a satisfied huffing sound, and the jungle, after holding its respectful silence, gradually returned to its normal symphony of life. The silent zone was ending, but not because Lily was leaving. It was ending because an agreement had been reached, and the tension of negotiation was resolved. The jungle knew when to be quiet and when to celebrate. 3 months later, the Galactic Council convened in full session to discuss Earth's admission. The Grand Chamber orbited Mars, a neutral location close enough to Earth for human representatives to attend, but far enough to maintain Council protocols. Delegates from 200 species filled the tiered seating, their varied forms representing the diversity of intelligent life in the galaxy. Lissa stood at the presentation platform, her data compiled and ready. Beside her, Councillor Rath prepared to speak, but the most important witness sat in a special observation area designed for her comfort. Lily, wearing simple clothes that she had finally accepted after weeks of gentle persuasion, watched the proceedings with intelligent eyes. The honey badger lay at her feet, alert but calm. The council had debated for hours about whether to allow an animal into their chamber. Lily had resolved the debate by refusing to attend without her partner. Where Lily went, the honey badger went. The council had adapted. The motion before us, Councillor Rath began, is whether to grant Earth provisional membership in the Galactic Council. This decision has been complicated by recent discoveries about human capabilities and the ethical questions raised by illegal research programs. Images appeared on the central display. The abandoned research station, the evidence of child abandonment, the criminal network that had funded the project. Lissa had been thorough in her investigation, and council enforcement had been swift. 17 people were now facing charges across 4 Earth nations. More arrests were expected. However, Rath continued, these crimes were not sanctioned by Earth's legitimate governments. They represent the actions of individuals, not species-wide policy. The question we must answer is this: what do humans represent as potential council members? A delegate from the Stoneheart Empire stood. They represent danger. A species that would abandon their own young in hostile environments cannot be trusted. Bravik rose from his seat. I am Stoneheart, and I disagree. I have fought beside warriors from 50 species. I have seen courage and cowardice in all of them. The humans who committed these crimes do not represent all humans, any more than criminals from our own species represent all Stonehearts. He gestured toward Lily. That child survived 4 years in one of the most dangerous environments in the known galaxy. She did not do it through violence or domination. She did it through understanding and cooperation. That is human nature too. Another delegate spoke, her voice synthesized through a translator, but she cannot even speak a human language. How can we know what she represents? Yanara floated to the center of the chamber, her bioluminescence shifting to attention-getting patterns. She represents human potential freed from cultural constraints. In 4 years, without instruction, she developed communication systems that work across species barriers. She created a peaceful territory in a violent ecosystem. She demonstrated tactical intelligence, emotional maturity, and moral courage, all at 7 years old. The debate continued for hours. Some delegates argued that Lily was an aberration, a statistical outlier that proved nothing about humanity as a whole. Others claimed she demonstrated exactly what made humans dangerous: unpredictability and the ability to thrive in conditions that should kill them. Finally, the council speaker called for Lily to address the assembly. Translators were prepared, though everyone knew she couldn't use them in the traditional sense. Lily stood and walked to the center platform, the honey badger following. 200 species watched a small human child waiting to see what she would do. Lily looked around the chamber, meeting eyes with delegates from across the galaxy. Then she began to communicate, using the only language she knew: sounds, gestures, and demonstrations. She made a clicking sound, the same call she used for the honey badger. The animal approached and sat beside her. She rested her hand on its head, showing their bond. Then she made different sounds, mimicking bird calls, jaguar growls, monkey hoots. For each sound, she acted out the meaning through gesture. Danger, food, friend, safety. She was teaching them, showing them how she learned to communicate with Earth's animals by studying their natural languages and finding common ground. Next, she pulled out a collection of carved figures from a pouch. The same ones she had shown Lissa months ago, She arranged them on the platform floor, creating her social map. Different species, different relationships, all connected through understanding and mutual benefit. Then she did something new. She pulled out additional carvings she had been working on. These depicted the aliens she had met: Lissa, Bravik, Yanara, Counselor Wrath. She added them to her map, positioning them within the inner circles. They had proven themselves. They had brought justice. They were part of the community now. Finally, she picked up one of the alien figures and one of the animal figures. She brought them together, showing partnership. Then she looked up at the assembled council and made a sweeping gesture that encompassed everyone in the chamber. The message was clear. What she had done with Earth's animals, humans could do with other species. Building understanding, creating cooperation, bridging gaps. She's offering us a gift, the council speaker said quietly. The ability to communicate with non-sapient species throughout the galaxy. Think of what we could learn. Think of how many worlds we could understand more deeply. A delegate from the scientific sector spoke up. We have studied animal behavior for millennia. We have never achieved what this child has done. Because you approached it as scientists studying subjects, Lissa said. She approached it as a survivor seeking partners. The difference in perspective made all the difference in results. The council speaker called for a vote. The chamber filled with light as delegates registered their decisions. Green for approval, red for denial, yellow for abstention. Lily watched the lights, not understanding the mechanism but reading the room's emotional atmosphere. The count finished. Green lights outnumbered red by a significant margin. The motion passes, the council speaker announced. Earth has granted provisional council membership, with full membership to be reviewed in 10 standard years. The human species is recognized as possessing unique abilities in cross-species communication and alliance building. The chamber erupted in discussion, some celebrating, others protesting. Lily simply smiled and picked up her carvings, returning them to her pouch. The honey badger made a satisfied sound. Lissa approached her, kneeling to her level. You did it. You showed them what humans can be. Lily pointed at Lissa, then at herself, then at the honey badger. She made a circle gesture, encompassing all of them. Then she pointed toward Earth, visible through the chamber's transparent dome. Home. Yes, Lissa agreed. You want to go home? The return to Earth was triumphant. Media from across the planet covered the story. The feral child who had survived alone in the Amazon. The partnership with a fearless honey badger. The evidence that humans possessed abilities the galaxy had never seen before. But Lily avoided the crowds and cameras. She returned to her jungle, to her cave behind the waterfall. The honey badger reclaimed its sleeping spot with clear relief. Being among aliens had been interesting but exhausting. Lissa and her team established a permanent research station nearby, but far enough away to respect Lily's territory. They would study her methods, document her communication systems, and eventually teach other humans how to replicate her success. Other feral children were found across Earth, each having survived through different strategies and partnerships. The council was fascinated by every case. Humans, it seemed, could adapt to almost anything. Lily began teaching, though not in classrooms. She led small groups into the jungle, showing them how to read animal behavior, how to move without threatening, how to offer respect and receive it in return. Some students were human. Some were alien. All learned that violence was the last resort, not the first option. The honey badger participated in these lessons, demonstrating the fearlessness that had made its species famous. But it also showed something else. The ability to trust, to partner with something completely different from itself, to build a bond that transcended instinct. Years passed. Lily grew older, learning human languages while maintaining her jungle skills. She became an official ambassador, teaching council species how to approach non-sapient life with respect rather than superiority. Her methods were adopted on dozens of worlds, improving relationships between sapient settlers and native wildlife. The honey badger aged too, its muzzle graying, its movements slowing. But it never left Lily's side. Their partnership, forged in survival, had evolved into something deeper. Family, the kind that chose each other rather than being born into it. On Lily's 16th birthday, the council formally recognized her contribution to galactic society. She received commendations, awards, and offers of advanced education from universities across known space. She accepted the honors politely and returned them all to storage. She didn't need awards. She had the jungle. She had her partner. She had a community that spanned species boundaries and proved that understanding was more powerful than dominance. And she had proven something crucial for humanity's future. Earth's harshness hadn't created violent conquerors. It had created survivors who understood that cooperation was the ultimate strength. The jungle around her cave remained special. The silence zone still appeared when Lily walked through the forest. Areas where predator and prey coexisted peacefully, if only for a little while. Scientists studied these zones, trying to understand the mechanism, but they never quite figured it out. Perhaps it wasn't something that could be measured or quantified. Perhaps it was simply respect, given freely by creatures who recognized someone who belonged, someone who had earned her place not through force but through understanding. Lily stood at her cave entrance one evening, watching the sun set over the jungle canopy. The honey badger sat beside her, old but still fearless. In the trees around them, animals settled in for the night. Some called out to her, greeting or farewell. She responded to each, maintaining the connections she had spent years building. The council had asked what humans could offer the galaxy. Lily had shown them. Not weapons or technology, not conquest or dominance, but the ability to find common ground with the utterly alien, to build trust where none should exist, and to create communities from impossibility. The jungle quieted as night fell, not in fear but in peace. And at its heart, a human girl and a honey badger stood together, proving that the strongest partnerships were the ones nobody thought possible. Above them, ships from 100 worlds orbited Earth, waiting to learn the lessons only humans could teach. The galaxy was vast and often hostile, but humans had learned something crucial in their violent cradle world. Everyone, no matter how different, was looking for the same thing: understanding, partnership, a place to belong. And humans had discovered they possessed a unique gift for providing exactly that. The honey badger made a contented sound and pressed against Lily's leg. She reached down and scratched behind its scarred ears. No words were necessary. They never had been. The jungle understood. The galaxy was learning, and humanity's future was secured not by strength alone, but by the courage to extend a hand across impossible divides and the wisdom to wait patiently for it to be accepted. The silence held, respectful and complete. Then gradually the night sounds returned, the jungle singing its ancient song, and at its center, two unlikely partners rested, knowing they had changed the galaxy simply by refusing to face it alone.